that after each topic, I will be opening the window for the doubt, and then you can go ahead and ask the doubts. Because today the topics are uh, including some kind of flow, which, if disrupted, can be the next few sections can be very disturbing if the flow is disrupted. So I'll be opening the window for the doubts after each section and after each topic clubbed together, and then you can go ahead with asking the doubts. Okay. Let's begin. We were discussing charges. We discussed what should a charge look like, form, and then we also did that how the charges should have time, place, person or thing mentioned, offense mentioned, definition mentioned, name of the offense. All those things we did in the last class, plus also in which kind of offenses, in which situations the manner of the offense should be stated. So the manner of the offense should be stated where both these things are not enough for the accused to let know about his charge. So if the accused has committed cheating to B and he was engaged in 100 transactions with B on a daily basis, suppose he is an employee of B who deals with B on a regular basis. So if he commits cheating to B and he is engaged in 100 different transactions with B, so then the manner of the cheating has to be stated. Otherwise, if this is only about one isolated transaction, then alone if the cheating is mentioned that A has committed cheating, then that would be enough. Clear? Any doubt still here? Then I'll move ahead. The manner should be stated in certain kind of offenses where it is required, where the time, place, name of the offense, definition of the offense are not enough to give that sort of information with the help of which the accused can prepare his defense, or with the help of which the accused can either know that what kind of offense, what kind of charge is framed against him. To provide him full knowledge of the charge against him, the manner also has to be stated. Uh, for example, this cheating example is one. The other example can be if a public servant is obstructed from performing his official duties by X, by person X. If this is the charge against X, is this is one of the offenses in BNS also, and this is the only obstruction of public servant. This is one of the offenses under BNS also. Is this enough to let know the person that he obstructed a public servant? No, right? So the manner also has to be stated where he obstructed and how he obstructed. So in certain kind of offenses, it is never enough that the definition or the name of the offenses should be enough to tell the accused that what kind of offense is actually committed by him and what kind of charge is framed against him. So that then in that case, the manner should also be stated. Okay. Okay. Let's move ahead. And it is about alteration, errors of charges and procedure then. So here you need to learn the number of the sections also. Just one section, which is 239 of BNSS read with 510 of BNSS. So 239 and 510 are two very important sections. Okay. From the point of view of your provisions also. 239 and 510. Mark these sections. So the very first thing is any error or omission. If, for example, if court omits to frame any charge against the accused, if the case which is made in the police report is only grievous hurt, then it eventually led to murder. So the charge was only grievous hurt against the accused. So in such quick situations, if the charges are leading to any omissions or error or omissions which are not causing failure of justice, which are not causing failure of justice, failure of justice. So the errors or omissions which are not causing failure of justice, and also the accused is not misled. These are the words. Accused is not misled. If both the things are not happening, then those errors or omissions are not material. Not material as in they are not going to affect the trial anyhow. If the error is such which leads to the failure of justice and it is also misleading the accused anyhow, then the procedure may be followed of 510. The section number 510 actually gives the procedure, that what procedure should be followed if the it has led to failure of justice and the accused is misled. So 510 says that if any finding, sentence or order, if any finding, sentence or order, if any finding, sentence or order by a court of competent jurisdiction. So the court should be competent by a court of competent jurisdiction. This is one of the prerequisite, that the court should be competent to try the offense. Any finding, sentence or order by the court of competent jurisdiction shall not be invalid unless there is a failure of justice. This is also in conformity with the above provision, which I just told you. Failure of justice has to be there. If there is some sort of failure of justice or misleading of the accused happened, then in case of omission to frame a charge, in case of an omission to frame a charge, the new charges will be framed. The new charges will be framed. Or In any other cases means the cases of errors, irregularity in charges. The charges can be new charges can be there, or there can be a new trial. So it depends upon the discretion of the court to either order the new trial altogether or to just ask for the new charges. Okay, this is the consequence of it. Okay, if you'll open 510, those are the series of those sections only which talks about irregularities. If you remember, we also studied about 506, 507. So it is about the errors in framing of charges. And if the court is also of the opinion that there is no valid ground to frame a charge, there is no valid ground to even frame a charge. To frame a charge, then in that case, the court also have a power to quash, to cancel the conviction altogether. Conviction as in the sentence of punishment. He will acquit the accused. The court can also acquit the accused in case they find under 510 also that there is no valid ground to frame a charge. The person can be acquitted. This is before trial. This is happening before trial. Okay, the valid ground to frame a charge. The charges are not framed and the court thinks that there was no valid ground to frame a charge. The conviction can be quashed, and in case of any omission which is found at the later stage or in any other cases, these can be the consequences. The new charge can be framed, the new charges can be framed, or the new trial can begin. Yes.
वो लास्ट लाइन समझ में नहीं आया, नो वैलिड ग्राउंड वाला.
If there is no valid ground to frame a charge, if the court thinks कि कोई valid ground था ही नहीं चार्ज बनाने के लिए भी, अक्यूज ने कुछ किया ही नहीं है, कोई ग्राउंड ही नहीं है केस बनाने के लिए, तो कन्विक्शन क्वॉश कर देंगे, एक्विट कर देंगे, अक्यूज को छोड़ देंगे.
ओके,
ठीक है. तो 238 section number 238 की illustration number D and E are very important, particularly E. Khuda Baksh and Haider Baksh. This is taken from the case law of, this is based on one of the case laws, which is Khuda Baksh versus Emperor, 1917, pre-independence. Yes, Aisha?
Ma'am, on the last point that you mentioned, convicted means someone is already held guilty by the court. So will the same court acquit them, or?
So the charges are framed. The charges are framed. The charges are framed. And what happens after the charges are framed? If in anywhere after framing the charges, still the judgment is pronounced, if any time the court thinks, the same court thinks that the accused has to be set free, the accused has not committed any crime, the court will convict, the court will acquit him. Or if he thinks here that the accused has committed the crime, the court will convict him. If before framing the charges, anytime here the court thinks that the accused has not done anything and this is baseless, the court will discharge him, not acquit him or convict him. Okay. So the same court will do.
Okay, ma'am. So quash the conviction doesn't literally mean that oh, they're convicted and then they are being acquitted, but before actual conviction, before the judgment is given.
Quash the conviction, that means the conviction will not be given. That's all.
Okay.
Khuda Baksh versus Emperor. This is the case law which is based on if the misleading of the accused. So A was charged with murdering Heather Baksh and also Khuda Baksh on different dates. On different dates, suppose on 22nd August and 23rd August. Okay. On different dates, he was charged. But when he was tried for the murder of, the trial was going on for the murder of Heather Baksh. He was called for the murder of Heather Baksh, but he was tried for the murder of Khuda Baksh. Okay. And Khuda Baksh was the person who was trying to arrest him. He came with premeditation of like the pre-planned murder happened of Heather Baksh, but not Khuda Baksh. Khuda Baksh was murdered in circumstances. So primarily he was planning to murder Heather Baksh. Then in the same situation, Khuda Baksh was also murdered. So but he was called for the murder of Heather Baksh, but he was tried for the murder of Khuda Baksh due to mistake. But the witnesses who saw the accused murdering only saw the murder of Heather Baksh. So they were present, but the trial was going on for the murder of Khuda Baksh. So this whole mistake is obviously misleading the accused, and this held to be misleading, and there thus the error is material. So either the charges should be framed new, in this case, either new charges or new trial altogether. So there were two persons, Khuda Baksh and Heather Baksh. Suppose A killed both Khuda Baksh and Heather Baksh on different dates. On 22nd, he killed Heather Baksh, and on 23rd, he killed Khuda Baksh. But he was called for the trial because on 23rd, Khuda Baksh came to arrest the person A. So he killed Khuda Baksh also on 23rd, and on 22nd, he killed Heather Baksh. But on the day of the trial, he was called for the trial of Heather Baksh, but the trial was going on for Khuda Baksh. And the witnesses who were present there were the witnesses who saw the murder of Heather Baksh. So it is somehow the confusion is misleading the whole situation, and somehow it is misleading the accused also. So it is the error is immaterial, the error is material, and either there should be new charges or there should be new trial. Now, also the court. Yes.
सेक्शन कौन सा था?
238.
रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर कितना था?
क्या?
रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर
Illustration E. This is illustration E based on the case of Khuda Baksh versus Emperor. 239, section number 239 about alteration. Yes.
Ma'am, previously he was charged with the murder of whom?
He was charged with the murder of both Heather Baksh and Khuda Baksh, but he was tried for the murder of he was called for the murder of Heather Baksh, but the trial was going on for Khuda Baksh. And the witnesses who were present there were of the Heather Baksh case. Okay. He was called for the trial of Heather Baksh, but the trial going on was for the Khuda Baksh. And so that is why he was called for, if he was called for the trial of Heather Baksh, so the charges should also be for Heather Baksh, but the charges were for Khuda Baksh. So this was misleading. The situation was whole confusing and misleading, and that is why the new charges and new trial should be framed. It is mentioned in the illustration. The facts and everything is mentioned in illustration number E. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
239, alteration of charges. So this is really important. Court may alter the charges due to any of these situations. The court can alter. Alter means change, improving, modification. The same court can alter the charges before judgment. Before judgment. So, if the cognizance is taken here, documents are given here, process are issued here, then charges are framed here. Then the whole trial begins. Then if the trial continues for 6 months and then here the judgment is pronounced, then just I'm giving you a random example. Then during this whole 6 months, the court has power to alter the charges. So alteration can happen anytime before the judgment is pronounced. Then, if alteration happens, it should be read and explained to the accused again. To the accused again, it should be the alteration and new charges should be read and accused again. If nobody is prejudiced, the word is prejudiced. Nobody is prejudiced. If no one is prejudiced, that means if it is not leading to failure of justice of the accused or of the prosecution, nobody is prejudiced, then the new charges will be treated as original charges. That means the charges which were framed new will be treated as that they were framed when the original charges was about to be framed. Or if anybody is prejudiced, then a new trial has to be ordered or adjournment. Postponement of the hearing. Adjournment means postponement of the hearing can also happen. Yes, Aisha.
So, ma'am, in case of prejudice towards any party, what is their remedy? Like new trial or adjournment is there, but where do they go? Or do they go to a higher court or?
They can go to the appellate court under 510 itself.
Ma'am, what is the meaning of prejudiced here?
Failure of justice. That means if it is affecting the accused materially in any way. For example, in case of Khuda Baksh and Haider Baksh, the whole situation was very misleading. The accused came for the trial of Haider Baksh and then he was somehow asked the questions relating to Khuda Baksh. And the witnesses the present witnesses were of Haider Baksh. So the defense he was prepared with was of Haider Baksh. So this is misleading. This is prejudicing the accused. Affecting the accused.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
The higher court. Okay. And if this happens, if the alteration of charges happen on the whole, then in that case, the witnesses or any other persons can be recalled or resummoned. This is consequential to two 239. If 239 doesn't happen, if alteration doesn't happen, then there is no scope of recalling or resummoning the witnesses. If at all the recalling or if at all the alteration happens, then only the recalling or resummoning happens. Clear? This section is read with a very, very important section, which is actually one day a student also in the class asked about it, because that is a section which is very commonly used by the courts. I'll just give you a glimpse of it because we are going to deal with it in detail, which was the old section was 319 of CRPC. Now it is 358 of BNSS. So what does this section mean? This section mean other than the accused. If a person is not an accused, this is the only important line here. If the person is not an accused, and in that case, during inquiry or trial, if there is a need to call any person who appears to be guilty along with the accused. To be guilty along with the accused, that means to make him a co-accused. This is not witness along with the accused. We are not talking about witnesses here. We are talking about the person who can be made a co-accused, who was not an accused earlier, whose name was not there in the FIR, police report, non-cognizable report, whose name was not mentioned here, but after like going through the inquiry and the phases of trial, if the court thinks there is discovery of a new fact and there is again the for example the case of the rape and the murder of Kolkata doctor case, there is no revelation of till now there is no revelation of gang rape. Like there are speculations of gang rape, but only one accused is the trial is going against only one accused. So if at a later stage it is found out that one more person or few more persons were engaged whose names were not revealed earlier, but at a later stage of the crime or at the later stage of the trial to be engaged in the crime, then they can be made co-accused by calling them under 358. This is a very common and very practical provisions and an important provision under BNSS. And that co-accused can be tried together with the accused. Okay. This section number is also important. Clear? 358. So this is about alteration of charges. This is how the alteration happens. And if the alteration happens, there can be a new trial also. There can be, if anyone is prejudiced. If nobody is prejudiced, then the charges will be treated as the original charges only. I hope you are clear on this. Any doubts? If you have any doubts, please go ahead. Otherwise, we'll be starting with joinder of charges.
And this new charges made will be treated along with the original charges, as in with the original
Yes.
charges. It will be
Yes.
added, right?
With the original charges, and if the original charges are replaced by the new charges, then the new charges will be treated as original charges. This is what it is meant.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, but usually does this new trial happen because
Yes,
it will be
yes.
extra procedures, right, for them to
It
do?
happens. It happens if it is prejudicing the rights of the accused. It happens. Mostly,
Okay.
they try not to like avoid a new trial due to not to waste the time of the court, and they try to alter the charges in such a manner where the accused is informed properly, accused is not misled, nobody is prejudiced. They follow the proper procedure and then they alter the charges. That is why the power is given that the alteration of charges can happen anytime before the judgment. Okay, so this is the general rule. As I told you in the previous classes also, what is the general rule? If the question comes, till when the charges can be altered? Before the judgment is the answer. This is the general rule. Okay. Now, general rule. Again, I'm talking about the general rule. Only one section you need to remember is 241, which is the general rule. You understand it this way. 241 is the umbrella, and then there comes a lot of exceptions. There are a lot of exceptions to section 241. So 241 is the general rule, which simply says that for every distinct offense, there should be a separate charge. For every offense, if a person has committed theft, if a person has committed murder, if a person has committed, like the same person has committed 5 different offenses, there should be, for every distinct offense, there should be separate charges. And all those charges should be tried also separately. The trial should also be separate for all those charges against one different person. For every offense, every distinct offense, if the offense is distinct, if the offense is different, then if the offense is not same, then for all those cases, there should be separate charges and the trial should also be separate. There are many exceptions to it, because this, if this is followed, then the court will be wasting, I don't know how many, the cases will be pending. I don't know the double of which is pending right now, not even double, 10 times. Because the same person, if in the same transaction, if in the same course of robbery, if he commits murder also, then for robbery a different trial will be there, and for murder a different trial will be there. If I'm beating a person and I'm also murdering the same person at the same time, I'll be charged for grievous hurt differently and I'll be charged for murder differently. So this is not how things go, but this is the general rule. And the general rule is, for every distinct offense, there should be separate charge and there should be a separate trial. The first exception is the proviso itself of section 241. The proviso is the accused himself on application in writing. The accused himself can make an application in writing to try him together for all or any number of the charges against him. So the accused can himself make an application in writing. If the accused has himself made an application in writing that I am charged with these offenses, please try me together for all the offenses, the court will do that. The court has a discretion to do that. Here, this is the first exception. The second exception is, if the offense is of same kind and it happened in the span of 1 year, but there is a limit to it, which is important now because the limit is changed, not exceeding 5. Earlier it was 3. It is now increased to 5. In before 2023, it was 3, now it is made 5. So basically it means if the accused has committed 3 offenses which are of same kind, I'll let you know what is actually meant by same kind. So if the accused has committed the offense of same kind in 1 year, and the offenses are not more than 5, now the offenses are not more than 5. Earlier it was 3. If the offenses were more than 3, the accused will be tried separately. But now the offenses are of, like, there should be 5, not more than 5 offenses. If the offenses are 5 and the accused has committed 5 offenses in 1 year which are of same kind, then there can be a joint trial and there can be joint charges also. Now, what do you mean by same kind? So according to the definition of same kind, the offenses which are same the same kind offenses are the offenses which are punishable with same punishment, same amount of punishment under same section. But the proviso says that for example, the definition of theft is provided in 303 and the punishment is in 304, or the definition of murder is provided in 100 and the punishment is in 103, just for an example. So these are the offenses of same kind. Or there is a definition of 303 clause, like the punishment of theft is in 303 clause 2, and theft in dwelling house is in 305. Dwelling house means where some people are living. In a house where people are living. So theft and dwelling house, theft in dwelling house are of the same kind. So if the person is going to commit a theft in a dwelling house, he will be charged with theft also and 305 also, both the charges. So it should not be the thing that he should be tried for theft separately and 305 separately. He will be tried for both the offenses together. This is the second exception, but the offenses should be in the span of 1 year and the offenses should not be more than 5 in number now. Any doubts? Any doubts? Then I'll move ahead.
No, ma'am, you can move ahead.
So the third exception is same transaction. This is very easy. Whoever commits offenses in the same transaction, for example, a person goes in a house, causes grievous hurt to the people living there, causes theft, which ultimately becomes robbery because there is a material of grievous hurt also. Then he causes the murder of 4 people. All this in house number 10. In one night only. So this is same transaction. This is same transaction, obviously. So all these charges against one person will be together, will be clubbed together, and the trial will be together. For example, you can read the illustration number B of section 243. 243 illustration B. He commits housebreaking by day with intent to commit rape and commits in the house so entered rape with B's wife. A may be separately charged with and convicted of offenses of section 64. And then the last the after all the illustrations, there is one line. The separate charges referred to in illustration A to G respectively may be tried at the same time. So these separate charges may be tried at the same time. So A goes in a house, commits housebreaking with the intent to commit rape, and he committed rape also. So housebreaking and rape, both the charges can be tried together. Yes. Yes, Anju?
Ma'am, I had a doubt. If suppose the person has committed robbery, but not in one place, like in different places, how would that be treated as
Same transaction.
in same transaction?
Same
Ma'am,
transaction.
so what about the punishment that would be given? Like, would it be for the same amount of period that is given, or will it be treated separately, like for different places?
If in one night a person goes to 10 houses and commits theft in all the 10 houses, or if a person goes to murder 10 people, all 10 people he murders in one night, the punishment for one murder is also same, and punishment for 10 murder is also same. We are going to come to section that provision. That provision is one of the subject provision of this, the whole chapter, which is section number 9 of BNS now, IPC. Section number 9 of BNS now, which says that one strike, like one stick, a person is beating with a stick, and one beating or 100 strikes will amount to one punishment. Okay, we'll be coming to that. So there will be one charge, and the charges will be of under same transaction. Same, see, transaction is not defined anywhere. The word transaction is not defined anywhere. But what do we mean by transaction is which has a proximity of time. The main element is time. If in one night the person is committing 10 murders, obviously he'll be tried together under section 243 clause 1, which is about the same transaction. Clear? The fifth clause of it is about section 9 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. We are coming to it.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, so what if like it wouldn't be fair enough, right? So what if different people have suffered differently because of his actions?
The punishment will be cumulatively more.
Hmm.
There can be no punishment more than death sentence, right? If the
Yeah.
offense is such grave in nature, the court will consider it under rarest of rare case or give him a life imprisonment if he committed
Ma'am,
10 years.
ma'am, if there's a like suppose if there is a fine that he has to give or compensation that he has to provide, so in that case, will each of them be
Yes,
entitled for that?
yes, he'll be providing compensation to each one of the if ordered by the court, and he'll be going through the imprisonment of maximum of what is provided under that section. So if the section provides, if robbery provides 10 years, it cannot be 50 years, right? Because he committed 5 robbery in one night. It should be 10 years only.
Ma'am, so will that be a division of the total
See, the
fine that
quantum
he
of
has to give, or
fine, the quantum of fines, there are provisions for fine also under BNS. So the fine will not never be excessive, but it depends upon the court to penalize him with fine or not. So if he is penalized with fine, if he is asked to give fine to the 5 persons of the suffer the harm caused, they'll be distributed equally. It will be divided by 5 if there are 5 robberies.
okay, ma'am, got.
The next exception is again the cases of criminal breach of trust and misappropriation of property, dishonest misappropriation of property. I explained in the last class about criminal breach of trust and dishonestly misappropriation of property. Can somebody tell me what is the prime purpose of these offenses? to avoid the misusing of property. So the person does not misuse anyone else's movable property. Okay. If I'm giving you my book in trust to look after it, that is my movable property, or my car in trust to look after it, and you uses it as your own, this is criminal breach of trust. But if you find any ring on the road which you do not know the owner, and then without even finding the owner, you use the ring as your own and you kept it for yourself, then it is dishonest misappropriation of property. So both these offenses are for avoiding the misuse of the movable property which are not yours. If given in trust or if not given in trust. Clear? If these offenses are committed, we studied it in I think the very first section itself, that when there are these kinds of offenses, then there should not be these offenses will be treated as same kind of offenses, and if they are same kind of offenses, they can be tried together. But also, for committing both these offenses, the accused commits falsification of account. He fraudulently hid something in his account. Then in that case, either the criminal misappropriation of trust or the criminal breach of trust, or either the CBT or the dishonest misappropriation of property and falsification of account can be tried together.
Ma'am,
For
can you please repeat it again?
Yes, for both these offenses, there are two offenses under Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita: criminal breach of trust and dishonest misappropriation of property, which are considered to be the same kind. Same kind means the offenses which are considered to be of same kind will be tried together if they are committed in 1 year and the number is not 5. So they'll be definitely tried together if they are committed within the span of 1 year. But if the person also commits falsification of account along with criminal breach of trust and dishonest misappropriation of property, the person wrongfully mentions an entry in his diary to hide the criminal misappropriation or criminal breach of trust. For example, if a person commits criminal breach of trust and also he commits falsification of accounts to hide this offense. Okay, then in that case, the offenses will be tried together and the charges will also be clubbed together.
मैम
Yes.
फॉल्सिफिकेशन ऑफ अकाउंट्स का मतलब है
फॉल्सिफिकेशन का अकाउंट का मतलब कि आपने कोई डायरी में गलत एंट्री कर दी है किसी चीज को छुपाने के लिए, कि criminal breach of trust happens when you give something of your own in trust to someone to take care of it. For example, you have a business of any goods you have a business of. For example, you are dealing in coal. You are dealing in coal. And your friend also is dealing in coal. You are two friends. You are going out somewhere and you gave 2500 kg coal to B, who was your friend, In trust, because you were not available. So you told him that please look after my 2500 kg of coal. B kept 2500 kg of coal as his own and also showed the false entry in his accounts. Because he'll have to show, because he's running a business, he'll have to show how this 2500 kg of coal came into the picture. So he made a false entry to it. So if this happens, then falsification of account and criminal breach of trust, which are two distinct offenses, will be tried together. Clear?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Fifth is when there is one act. Please listen to it carefully. When there is one act, one single act, because 5 and 6 are very similar, there is only difference of one act and two different acts. One single act which resulting into two offenses. Okay, this is the fifth exception, which is one act and which is resulting into two offenses. For example, A being the father of his child B exposes him and abandons him. छोड़ दिया उसे, अपने बच्चे को छोड़ आया जो 12 साल से कम एज का था, who was less than 12 years. This is an offense itself. अब इसकी वजह से, ये एक एक्ट है, इसकी वजह से the child died. So there are two offenses. One act, two offenses. One offense is exposing the child and other act is culpable homicide not amounting to murder. So there are two offenses, one single act. If this is the situation, then the offense will be tried together and the charges will be clubbed together. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
ये है one single act, two offenses. अब बहुत सारे acts हैं, more than one act, several acts, you can say several acts which makes
Ma'am,
new offense. Yes.
whenever the offenses are tried together, that means the charges are clubbed together as well.
Whenever the charges are clubbed together, that means the charges will be tried together. This means that जब charges एक साथ, when the charges are framed together, why are you framing charges together? Because you want a single trial. You don't want to waste time of the court, right? If you are
Yes, ma'am.
framing
Got it.
one single charge against a person, that means one trial. There can be many other reasons of combined trial against one person, but combination of charges is one of the reason. Sixth exception is एक offense ये है, दूसरा offense ये है. There are few offenses which is resulting into a new offense. You can call it as cocktail of offenses. Okay, when 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 offenses make a new offense. The best and the ultimate example of it is theft plus hurt is robbery. This is the definition of robbery. If a person commits theft and also causes hurt to a person, it results into robbery. So when there are more than two offenses, which is resulting into a new offense, it is, they are to be tried together. A person, for example, this is not a same transaction offense, just for an example. A goes and for stealing something. A goes for stealing something and also causes hurt to any other person. And then he steals something, which ultimately becomes a robbery. Then also it will be tried together. The illustration is mentioned there. A is accused of theft on one occasion and causing grievous hurt on another occasion. Then the trial can be together. Clear till here? When there is one single act and then there are different offenses, and then there are several acts which constitute a new offense altogether. Then it is mentioned that what will happen if it is doubtful that what offense was committed. If it is doubtful that what offenses has been committed, then the accused can be charged with all or any alternate charge or any one of the offense or any one. So it was doubtful the seventh exception is in cases of doubt. What if there is a situation of doubt? Because some kind of offenses are very similar to each other. For example, A can be accused of theft or receiving stolen property. Or he may be accused of criminal breach of trust, or he may be accused of cheating. It is not clear that which kind of offense he committed. So the charges can be framed of all the offenses, any alternate offenses, or any one of the offenses if the court thinks fit of the highest punishment. Whatever the court finds necessary, then the court will do that. But at the later stage, if the doubt is cleared, then there will be no new trial. The charges will be altered. That's all. The charges will be added or removed as the situation is in cases of doubtful offenses.
Ma'am,
Yes.
if the doubt is cleared, then what?
If the doubt is cleared at the later stage, for example, he was charged with all the offenses, theft also, receiving stolen property also, criminal breach of trust also, cheating also. If the later stage it appeared that he did not receive any stolen property, he did not commit any criminal breach of trust or cheating, he only committed theft. At a later stage, if it was found that, then the court will not order any new trial. The court will only alter the charge and only keep the charge as theft. The court will alter the charge because alteration is allowed before judgment anytime. Clear? In case of doubtful offenses.
So only the alteration will happen, but no new trial.
The trial will not be vitiated or the trial will not be invalid. There will be no grounds of ordering a new trial. Only the charge will be altered. Okay. The last exception is if the offense contains 5 essentials. For example, you can take an example of again theft in a dwelling house. Theft in a dwelling house will contain all the essentials of theft. There should be a movable property. There should be moving of the property out of the possession of any other person. So all these essentials should be there. Plus, there should be a dwelling house. If this is the case,
Ma'am, can you please repeat that line? If the offense has all the what?
if the offense has the essentials, every offense has some essential elements and then it becomes the offense. For constituting a theft, there has to be a movable property. There has to be moving of the movable property out of the possession of any other person. But if it is theft of dwelling house, this is a separate offense. Theft in a dwelling house. Okay. If this is the case, theft in a dwelling house, then there has to be a dwelling house also. So this is a major offense because obviously the punishment of theft will be lesser and the punishment of theft in a dwelling house will be more. Then that is the reason why there is a separate offense of theft in a dwelling house. Or maybe you can say house breaking by night. House breaking by night. Normal punishment of house breaking is less. Committing house breaking by night is punished with more punishment. So all the essentials of house breaking, there should be a house, there should be breaking open of the house, and then it should be committed in night. So all this makes the offense of house breaking by night. But what if at a later stage it appears that only these 2 conditions were fulfilled? He did not commit house breaking by night. And this is, or if this is not proved, the night is not proved, or the dwelling house is not proved. It is only proved that he had committed theft and not in a dwelling house. Then he may just be convicted of theft, or he may just be charged with theft. Okay.
Ma'am, what if any element of one of the offenses was not committed?
Yes, that's what. If one of the element of one of the offenses is not committed, then in that case, the lesser offense which the other elements are constituting, he can be charged with that.
Ma'am, what I asked was as in if in case of theft, all the conditions are not satisfied. If one of the things are missing, then what would be the situation?
Then he'll not be convicted of theft. There'll be no theft.
Yeah.
For one offense, there has to be the essential elements of actually one offense, of the parent offense. The best example is criminal breach of trust in a carrier. This is one more offense. There is simple criminal breach of trust, and then if a person commits criminal breach of trust in a carrier, that is one more offense and the punishment is grave. The punishment is more than the normal criminal breach of trust. So if at a later stage it is proved, or if it is proved that he was charged with just criminal breach of trust in a carrier, but it was proved that carrier was missing, then he can just be charged with criminal breach of trust for minor offense. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So can you just repeat, like, what are we writing under this point?
We can write that if some elements of the offenses, if the some element of a major offense is missing and making it a minor offense and making it a minor offense with which he was not charged with which he was not charged with, then in that case, he can only be charged with the said minor offense. Then in that case, he can only be charged with the said minor offense. You can write this illustration to make it more clear, because the illustrations will be helping you in the exam. The one more exception is the opposite of it. If there is a minor offense, if there is an offense which is a minor, which is becoming a minor in nature, and after a point of time, it is found out that the offense was minor because of this element, which is now absent, which is proved to be absent, which is disproved, you can say. Then he can be charged with the major offense. Let me give you an example of it. For example, he was charged with grievous hurt. But it was proved by his advocate that he caused the grievous hurt on provocation, grave and sudden provocation. Okay. But at a later stage, by the prosecution advocate, it was proved that the provocation was not grave and the provocation was not even there. It was missing. So initially the charge was grievous hurt on grave and sudden provocation. Initially the charge was this, but later on, this grave and sudden provocation was disproved, and then he can only be charged with grievous hurt, which is a major offense in terms of punishment.
Ma'am, can you please conclude this number 9 overall in one sentence?
Okay, in one sentence, in like you need to write it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so when a person is charged with an offense, when a person is charged with an offense and facts are proved which reduce, and facts are proved which reduce it into a minor offense, he may be charged with the said minor offense, although he is not charged with it.
Can
Ma'am,
you repeat the
whether
last
facts
line?
are reduced.
Although he is not charged with it.
Ma'am, can you please repeat it again? I could not write it.
When a person is charged with an offense and facts are proved which reduce it into a minor offense, he may be convicted of the said offense, although he is not charged with it. The last and the most simple exception is if the person is charged with theft and he was not charged with attempt to theft, then they can be clubbed together. Not particularly of theft, just giving you an illustration. The line is that if a person is charged with an offense, he may be charged with attempt to commit such offense, although he was not separately charged for it. 245 clause 3. When a person is charged with an offense, he may be convicted of such an offense. He may be charged with attempt to commit such an offense, although he was not charged with it. Clear? Now let us come to
Ma'am,
section. Yes.
number 2, can you please repeat it again?
When a person is charged with an offense, he may be charged with attempt to commit with such an offense, although he was not charged with it. Attempt and the actual offense can be clubbed together. This is simply what it means. Okay. So there are two sections which are relating to it. Section 9 of BNS and section 25 of BNSS. BNSS. This is CRPC and this is IPC. Section 9 of BNS says if there are more than one acts, the punishment will be single. I gave you the example of 1 strike or 100 strikes. 1 robbery or 10 robberies. The punishment will be 1, which is maximum. They cannot be, if robbery, the punishment for robbery is 10 years, it cannot be 100 years for 10 robberies. It should be 10 only. The cumulative punishment for more than one act will always be 1, which is the most severe one. Okay? If there are more than one offenses, this is for one act, one single offense. If there are one offense, for example, there is robbery also, there is murder also, there is rape also, all these things are there. So only the person will be punished with only one offense, which is the most severe one. So in cases of different offenses, more than one offenses, the punishment will be 1, which is the most severe one. He'll be punished with one punishment, which is the most severe punishment.
Ma'am, is this also a part of the exceptions?
No. This is different. There are 10 exceptions. That's it. This is a rule under section 243, which says that these exceptions does not affect section 9 or section 9 of BNS. Essentially, it says that section 9 of BNS is not affected by it. Although he may be clubbed with all the charges, although he may be tried together of robbery, murder, and rape, but the punishment will be the 1. The punishment cannot be 3. Okay. How the punishment can be 3? If, for example, the punishment for robbery is 10 years, murder is life imprisonment, rape is death. He'll be first asked to serve 10 years, then he'll be gone for life imprisonment, and then he'll be gone for death. Is it possible?
No, ma'am. Ma'am, so this section is section 243. Or should we learn it as 25 of BNSS?
You should only learn it as 9 of BNS. This is 9 of BNS, section number 9 of BNS I'm talking about. Read with
Ma'am, so what is the 25 of
read with
BNSS?
section 25 of BNSS. I'm coming to it. This is just section 9 of BNS, which should not affect these exceptions. Okay, clear till here? Then I'll move ahead with 25. Now, CRPC talked about the punishment, the power of punishment by the court. What will happen if the court of JM second, how much a JM second is empowered to punish? Come
Ma'am,
on.
1 year?
Yes.
1 year.
Fine.
5,000.
10,000. 10,000.
Now 10K, right? 1 year
Okay.
and 10K. Sure? Now it is 10K?
Yes, ma'am. And I think JM1 was 3 years and 50K.
3 years and 50K. Yes. CJM is
7 years and unlimited fine, I guess.
no fine.
Oh, yeah.
And session court is any punishment other than
Except death,
other than death, and high
life
court is
in prison.
any punishment. JM first is 3 years and 50K. This we studied, right? This is the amount of punishments which is the limit of the courts. But in these cases where the offenses are combined, then in these cases, what will happen? So in these cases, section 25 is providing them exceptional powers, which says if there are more than one offense. So what if there is theft, normal theft, which is 3 years, and then there is the parent offense is theft, and then there is you can say a minor offense, which is causing hurt, simple hurt, which is also 3 years. If the cognizance is taken by JM first, he knows that the maximum punishment is 3 years, but he has committed theft plus hurt both. If the maximum punishment for hurt is, for example, 5 years, he knows that the maximum punishment can go up to 5 years. He is only empowered to give 3 years of punishment. He is not going to submit the case or commit the case. He's not going to submit the case to CJM because of section number 25 of BNSS, which says if there are more than 2 offenses, then the maximum punishment a court can inflict can be twice of the actual empowered limit. So if the JM first is empowered to give 3 years, in cases of more than one offenses, he can give 6 years. In cases of more than one offenses, JM second can give 2 years. And this can be 14 years. Okay. For more than 2 offenses, this is the case. Yes, repeating. So we studied that the courts can inflict only said amount of punishments. JM second was allowed to inflict 1 year, JM first was 3 years, CJM was 7 years. But what in the cases of more than 2 offenses? If the offenses are more than 2, then what? More than 1 or more than 2? What is the actual limit of it? Section number 25. 2 or more. If the offenses are 2 or more, then in that case, the court can give twice of the actual punishment which he was empowered to inflict. Twice punishment, double of the punishment. So for example, JM second was empowered to give 1 year punishment. If he's trying more than 2 offenses, he can give 2 years of punishment. JM first can give 3 years of punishment. CJM can give 14 years of punishment.
Ma'am, JM first 6 years, right? So there's an exception to their like imprisonment.
Normal
I mean,
power.
they can only
Normal
give for a
power.
particular period. So there's an exception. Okay.
Yes, for more than 2 years, for more than 2 offenses. In no case, but this is also subjected to one limit. In no case the person shall be punished for more than 20 years. Because we did not talk about session court and high court because they have unlimited power, so they can inflict any punishment. So it cannot go beyond 20 years, which was 14 years before. Now it is increased to 20 years after 2023. If you read section 25 proviso, you will see that 20 years is the limit now. It was 14 years before.
Ma'am, but one more doubt. Out of these three, the maximum punishment can be given
Can
by
be
only
14
CJM,
years.
and that
Yes, can
yeah.
be 14 years. That is why it was 14 years only before, but now it is made to 20 years. So it means that they are planning to increase the limit of CJM or any of the JM codes. That is why they gave the, like, they did not mention also if you'll interpret the section, they did not mention any of the codes. So it also means that the High Court or the Court of Session cannot inflict more than 20 years. This also means that. Because they did not mention CJM, JM first. We are interpreting JM first, JM second, and CJM because Session Court and High Court are out of the ambit. They can give as much of punishment as they can because there is no limit to the number of punishment to be inflicted by the Session Court or the High Court. So that is why it is 20 years now. Session Court and High Court can also not give 20 years for more than one offenses if they are trying. Earlier it was 14.
Ma'am, so what about death sentence?
They are specially empowered with death sentence. They are just limiting the number of years. They are not barring the death sentence. Session Court can definitely give the death sentence. That is why whenever we'll read the death sentence provisions, it is mentioned they are notwithstanding any of the provisions contained here before. Because these provisions, the death sentence provisions are above every provision. So the Session Court can give death sentences, but the limit of punishment is 20 years. Maximum. Clear? This is all about the charges. We are done with charges now.
Ma'am, so under 25, it doesn't specifically mention regarding High Court or Court of Session. So it is, I mean, the other JM1, JM2 or CJM. So it is applicable to all basically, since it's
Yes,
silent
it is
about that.
applicable to all because it is like specifically talking about all the courts.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, one more doubt that I had. Ma'am, isn't the first exception of the joinder of charges kind of defeating the purpose of all other exception? Because if in case the person is requesting and if the court allows, then what is the purpose of having all other exceptions for this?
The person will
I mean,
never,
even with
the accused person will never himself ask it. If the person asks it, there is no the accused will never want his joint trial. The accused will every time he'll want to waste the time of the court and not to get convicted as soon as possible. The accused will obviously not want the joint trial, and that is why if the accused is himself asking the joint trial, it is above everything. You understand it that way.
Yeah, ma'am. So this was another thing. Like, whom is it advantageous to? Is it the courts or to the accused when he's
The
asking for?
court, the court. If it is, you know, if the joint trial is happening, it is not in favor of the accused because the accused will be convicted sooner. The trial will happen in shorter period of time. What do you mean by joint trial? What do you mean by clubbing of charges? When we do everything together, we save the time, right? If I teach you 5 topics together, I'll be saving the time. So that is why the courts and the prosecution will every time want the joint trial to happen, and the accused will never want the joint trial to happen. But if the accused is himself going and asking for the joint trial, then nothing beats it.
Also, will there be any consideration for the punishments when it is joint
No,
trial?
no. If the accused is himself going for the joint trial, that means there is something fishy and he has not even committed the offense. There will not be anything like this. This does not represent his good character in any way. This will just lead to the joint trial. That's it.
So,
Okay. The next topic
Ma'am,
is yes.
Can you please say the sections 9 and 25 of BNSS again?
See, section 9 simply says that if there are more than one, section 25 of BNSS talks about the powers of the courts to inflict punishment in cases of more than 2 offenses. Section 9 says what will happen in cases of more than 2 offenses, more than 2 acts or more than 2 offenses. If there are more than 2 offenses, then what will happen to the punishment? So if there is one strike or if there are 100 strikes, there'll be one punishment. If there is one robbery or 10 robberies, there'll be one punishment. If there is a robbery, murder, or rape, the punishment will be of one offense, which is most severe. This is what section 9 is talking about of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. It is just talking about the punishment aspect. Okay. So even if the charges are clubbed, even if we are clubbing the charges, that doesn't mean the punishment will be also clubbed. The punishment will be one. This is what you mean by section 9. What we mean by section 25 is 25 of BNSS just simply talks about the powers of courts. So in cases of more than 2 offenses, the power of courts becomes double. If one court is trying more than 2 offenses, if for example CJM is trying more than 2 offenses, the punishment he can inflict is 14 years because the actual punishment he was allowed to inflict was 7 years. We studied it, remember? When we were studying BNSS, we started with it,
Remember.
studied it. It was 7 years, so now it become 14 years. Because of 25. Section 25 says if the CJM or any of the court is trying more than 2 offenses, it becomes twice of the actual empowered limit, but it should not go beyond 20 years. It was 14 in 2023, it became 20 now.
Got it, ma'am.
Clear? This was the summary of it. Let's introduce the trials and then let's conclude with the class. So I always told you there will be initiation of proceedings by either FIR, non-cognizable report, complaint, information cases, whatsoever is the case, and if the cognizance is taken on whatsoever process, then the process of inquiry will be followed, process will be issued, documents will be given, and then the charges will be framed. And as soon as the charges will be framed, the trial will begin. So what actually is trial? It is not even defined in 2023 BNSS now. It was not defined in CRPC. It is not defined in 2023. Trial can be called as The process of providing justice by the court. It is always done by a court. There are 4 kinds of trials which are very important. The section number, the chapter numbers are very important. Okay, so please note down the 4 kinds of trials. The very first trial is trial by a court of session. Session trial, which is chapter, please note this down, chapter 19, 248 to 260. BNSS. Second is warrant trial, chapter 20, 261 to 273. Summons trial, chapter 21, 274 to 282. And the last is summary trial, chapter 22, and this is the most important one. Please remember it. This is the summary trial is the most important one because this is the need of the hour. 283 to 288, chapter 22. So these are the 4 kinds of trial. Warrant trial is divided into 2 parts: on police report otherwise on police report. These are the 4 trials. There is not much difference between a session trial and a warrant trial. The difference is between the warrant and session trials are full-fledged trials. The summon trial and summary trial are very different because there are no charges in it. The charges are not framed in summons and summary trial. Always remember this. There is no requirement of framing charges in summons and summary trial. Okay? Because they'll have to be concluded quickly. What is a summons case?
Less than 2 years, ma'am.
Yes. So if the offense is punishable with less than 2 years, they'll have to be concluded quickly. The court will not want to waste their time in petty offenses rather than let's not call it petty offenses because it has a different meaning altogether. We'll study when we'll study summon trial because it has an element of petty offenses, small offenses, the offenses which are punishable with less than 2 years. The court will not want its time to be wasted with summons trial more or summary trial. So that is why they do not frame in such a way. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are. Ma'am, do
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have to remember these chapters that you have mentioned and the sections?
Chapters number, no, not the sections, just the chapters. 19 to 22. Session, warrant, summon, summary. 19 to 22. And
No,
then
ma'am, what is the previous section that you taught us? The section 9 read with
25.
yeah, that one. Do we have to remember the provision, ma'am?
Yes, 9 and 25 you'll have to remember. And among the provisions of charges, you just will have to remember 241. 241 is the general rule. Just that. Nothing else. And the chapter number, which is chapter 18. And also 238. 238 read with 510. Just this. Amongst the charges. Amongst the trial, just the chapter numbers, not the section numbers. You will just have to understand the procedure. The topics for the test are complaint proceedings plus bail, which includes anticipatory bail. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, was it 239 read with 510 or 238 with 510?
238 read with 510.
Okay.
238 read with 510 of BNSS. 9 and 25 and 241. These sections of charges. Clear? We'll begin with trials, like we'll just understand the procedure. The procedures are very similar. If you'll understand one procedure, you'll be able to understand all the procedures then. So that this will not take more time, and then we'll starting with the miscellaneous topics, which are not miscellaneous, but isolated miscellaneous topics, you can call them. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts? I hope not. We are
No, ma'am,
almost
it was
done with all the major topics of BNSS. We are just left with some minor topics. So please prepare bail and complaint in detail for tomorrow's test. Okay? Rishabh, clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's see you next week. Bye bye.
Ma'am, how many questions would be asked from CRPC BNS
Okay, in the exam, in the actual exam or in the test?
at the weekly test, ma'am?
In the weekly test, there'll be 5 questions from one paragraph. In the actual
So
exam,
there would be only one paragraph, or do we
there'll be
have
one
to?
paragraph. There is one paragraph in the weekly test this time.
Okay. And ma'am, no cases to look through, right, for this weekly test,
there
or
is
is it
case
just?
in the charge.
Okay, the ones you said in class. Okay, ma'am.
The bail has cases. Anticipatory bail has a case.
Okay.
Okay, guys. See you next week. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.